Gentlemen, stop drinking your coffee plain after 50. Stop assuming caffeine alone is enough to wake up your body, sharpen your mind, and bring back the strength, warmth, and response you used to take for granted. Because that habit may be the exact reason you still feel older than you should. And if you have noticed weaker mornings, colder hands, slower legs, flatter workouts, less staying power, softer response, lower confidence, then listen carefully, because this is not just about age, and it is not just about hormones. It is about a hidden vascular mechanism most men never fix. Today, I am going to show you the exact thing to add to your coffee, why it works, why coffee alone is incomplete, why old solutions often fail, and how a precise combination can help support blood flow, nitric oxide signaling, oxygen delivery, and male vitality in a way most men never hear explained. My name is Dr. Clara Vance, and if you want the exact coffee protocol, comment "flow" below, because what I am about to reveal is not a gimmick, not a random kitchen hack, but a very specific way to turn an ordinary cup into a smarter circulation ritual. Because the real issue for many men over 50 is not that the body suddenly stops working, it is that blood vessel signaling gets weaker, endothelial function gets rougher, oxidative stress climbs, smooth muscle response slows down, and the cells that should produce strong, clean energy start running like a tired old engine. You still drink coffee, you still try to push through, you still expect that quick lift, but then the day unfolds, you feel alert for a moment, then flat, then heavy, then underpowered again. Not because coffee failed, but because stimulation without vascular support is incomplete physiology. That is the mistake. Men chase stimulation, not circulation. They look for a jolt, not flow. They want force, not function. And when blood flow is not properly supported, oxygen delivery drops, nutrient delivery drops, waste clearance slows, and the whole system starts feeling older than it really is. That is when you notice it in real life. You climb stairs and feel it in your calves. You stand up and feel slow. You exercise and recover later. You want more stamina, but the body does not cooperate. You want firmness, steadiness, staying power, but the signal is weaker and the response is slower. Not because age alone ruined everything, but because vascular stiffness, nitric oxide loss, inflammatory load, and cellular fatigue quietly piled up underneath the surface, year after year, cup after cup, stress after stress. And this is exactly why plain coffee is not enough. Yes, coffee has useful compounds. Yes, caffeine can sharpen alertness. Yes, chlorogenic acids can help. But coffee by itself does not fully protect nitric oxide. It does not fully buffer oxidative stress. It does not fully support smooth muscle relaxation. And it does not fully rebuild the vascular environment men need after 50. So what is the missing piece? The thing to add? The thing most men never think to use this way? The thing that changes coffee from a stimulant into a vascular support ritual? Raw cacao powder. Not sugary hot chocolate, not candy cocoa, not heavily processed dessert mix. I am talking about real raw cacao powder, the darker, richer, more biologically active form, the kind that brings flavonols into the equation and gives coffee the one pathway it does not fully provide on its own. Because cacao contains compounds that help support nitric oxide production, and nitric oxide is one of the master signals for blood vessel relaxation, vascular flexibility, circulation efficiency, and that feeling men often describe as stronger, warmer, fuller, more responsive. When nitric oxide output is low, vessels do not open the same way, blood does not move the same way, tissues do not receive the same oxygen, and the body does not perform with the same speed or confidence, especially under physical strain, emotional stress, or intimate pressure. But when you combine the neurochemical lift of coffee with the vascular supporting flavonols of cacao, You create something more intelligent, not just a wake-up effect, but what I call a dual-phase vascular activation. First phase. Coffee helps drive alertness and circulation through its stimulant pathway. Second phase. Cacao helps support endothelial nitric oxide signaling and vascular relaxation. One pushes the system awake, the other helps open the road. That is the difference between feeling wired and feeling capable, between temporary stimulation and optimized physiology, between a spike and a functional response. And this matters more than men realize, because vitality is not one thing. It is not just testosterone, not just mood, not just energy. It is the combined result of nerve signal quality, blood flow quality, mitochondrial energy, vascular response, and the body's ability to stay steady under demand. Comment flow if you are still with me, because the next part is where most men finally understand why they have been drinking coffee for years without getting the full benefit they thought they were getting. Now let me make this even more practical. When blood vessels are under oxidative stress, nitric oxide gets destroyed faster. That means even if your body still makes some, you may not keep enough of it active long enough to matter. And that is where older men lose performance without noticing the hidden mechanism. This is why old solutions feel incomplete. More caffeine, more sugar, more aggressive pre-workouts, more random pills, more desperation. But none of that fixes nitric oxide protection, endothelial resilience, or vascular buffering. You do not need more chaos, you need a better pathway, and this is where the second ingredient becomes critical: Ceylon cinnamon. Not the cheap, harsh cinnamon most people buy without thinking, but Ceylon cinnamon, the lighter, gentler type, the one better suited for regular use, the one that fits this protocol without turning it into a daily overload. Why add it? Because cinnamon helps from another angle. It supports blood sugar control, helps reduce the metabolic swings that damage the endothelium, and helps calm one of the biggest hidden threats to male vascular function: unstable glucose exposure. Men do not talk enough about this, but repeated blood sugar surges are brutal on blood vessels. They increase oxidative stress, they stiffen the vascular lining, they weaken nitric oxide signaling, and they speed up that feeling of heaviness, slowness, and inconsistent response. So now you have coffee for alertness, cacao for nitric oxide support, cinnamon for metabolic control, and suddenly the whole thing is not just a morning drink anymore. It becomes what I call a nitric oxide protection pathway. That pathway matters because making nitric oxide is only half the story. Protecting the environment where it works is the other half. And most men never do both at the same time. This is why some men feel a little lift from coffee, but not the real change they want. The circulation environment is still noisy, inflamed, unstable, and hostile to good vascular response. Now add the third layer, ginger, and this is where the body often starts to feel the shift more noticeably. Because ginger brings warming circulation support, helps the body feel less stagnant, and adds another anti-inflammatory push to the formula. Ginger has a way of making the drink feel alive, not just in taste, but in effect. Many men notice that gentle warming sensation, that subtle sense that the body is opening up instead of bracing down. And that matters because the body performs better when it is not locked in stiffness. So now we are not talking about one ingredient, we are talking about a mechanism stack: coffee, cacao, cinnamon, ginger, 4 layers, 4 angles, 1 goal. Better vascular function, steadier energy, stronger response. This is the new mechanism most men never hear. Not one magic powder, but a cellular perfusion trigger, a combination that supports stimulation, nitric oxide, vascular buffering, and metabolic stability at the same time. That is how smart protocols work, not by hammering one pathway, but by coordinating several pathways so the body can perform like a system again. And yes, there is science behind the logic, research on coffee polyphenols, cacao flavonols, cinnamon's effects on glycemic control, ginger's anti-inflammatory properties, all point in the same direction. Better endothelial support, better vascular behavior, better conditions for blood flow and physical vitality. In other words, not hype, not superstition, not a miracle fantasy, but a layered physiological rationale. One that makes sense both in the lab and in real life. Because what do men actually want to feel? Not abstract biomarkers. They want to feel steadier in the morning, warmer in the hands, lighter in the legs, less flat after meals, less breathless on effort, more solid in intimate moments, more reliable when the body is called on to perform. They want the body to respond faster, last longer, recover better, and feel like it is cooperating again instead of resisting every demand. And that is exactly why incomplete solutions keep disappointing people. Because they target a symptom, not the system. One moment, not the mechanism. Around this point, some men ask, fine, but what is the exact formula? What do I actually put in the cup? How much? When? How often? And this is where precision matters, because power without precision turns into inconsistency. Here is the core protocol. Start with 1 regular cup of black coffee in the morning. Not late at night, not 5 cups a day, 1 sensible cup. Then add 1 to 2 teaspoons of raw cacao powder, 1/2 to 1 teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon, and 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon of ginger powder, or a small amount of freshly grated ginger if you prefer the fresher route. Stir thoroughly. Drink it with or shortly after a protein-rich breakfast if you are sensitive to caffeine. And use it consistently, not randomly, because vascular adaptation responds to repeated support, not occasional enthusiasm. If you want a gentler starting point, begin with 1 teaspoon cacao, 1/2 teaspoon Ceylon cinnamon, and 1/4 teaspoon ginger for 7 days. Then increase only if your digestion, taste preference, and energy response feel good. That is the foundation, simple, repeatable, practical, and strong enough to matter without turning your kitchen into a supplement laboratory. Now for men who want a deeper formula, especially if stress is high, recovery is slow, or drive feels blunted, there is an advanced layer you can use a few times a week. Add 1 teaspoon of gelatinized maca powder. Maca matters here, not because it is some magic hormone bomb, but because it has long been used to support stamina, drive, and overall vitality. And in this protocol, it fits as an energy resilience layer, not a stimulant layer. That distinction is important. You do not want to stack jitter on top of jitter. You want to support function, resilience, and output. That is why maca works better here than random energy ingredients that simply push the nervous system harder. And if you are more concerned with recovery, connective tissue support, or the structural side of aging, you can add 1 scoop of collagen peptides, especially if you tolerate it well and want a more complete daily ritual. Why collagen? Because vascular health is not only about signaling, it is also about structure, flexibility, tissue support, and the integrity of the framework through which blood moves. Then there is one more optional layer for the right person, ashwagandha, used cautiously, especially if stress runs high, sleep is messy, or the whole system feels overtaxed, because chronic stress is one of the fastest ways to shut down good vascular response. High stress pushes the body into constriction, cortisol stays elevated, blood vessels tighten, recovery gets worse, sleep gets worse, energy gets noisier, and men feel like they have to force everything. That is why I call the full upgraded version of this ritual the vascular buffering effect, because it does not just push the system up, it helps protect it from the things that drag it down: stress, glucose swings, oxidative pressure, cellular fatigue. And once you understand that, you stop thinking like a desperate consumer and start thinking like a man rebuilding physiology, one smart input at a time. Comment coffee below if you want to commit to trying this for 14 days, because consistency is where men start seeing the difference between a random trick and a real body protocol. Now let us handle the objections, because this is where people either apply a good system wisely or ruin it by guessing. First, no, more is not automatically better. Doubling the dose does not double the benefit. It usually just increases bitterness, digestive discomfort, or overstimulation. So follow the protocol. Do not freestyle your way into frustration. Second, if you are sensitive to caffeine, do not drink this on an empty stomach just to prove a point. Take it with breakfast or reduce the coffee strength, because the goal is better flow and vitality, not jitter and acid. Third, if ginger irritates your stomach, lower the amount. If cinnamon feels too strong, stay near half a teaspoon. If cacao tastes too bitter at first, start smaller and build up. Precision wins, ego loses. Fourth, do not expect a cartoon effect in 1 hour and call it failure if that does not happen. Some men feel warmer or steadier quickly. Others notice the bigger difference after days or weeks of consistent use, because vascular support compounds work best when the body sees them repeatedly. Fifth, if you take medication, especially for blood sugar, blood pressure, circulation, or anticoagulation, use common sense and speak with your clinician before making this a daily ritual, because a smart protocol should still respect your medical reality. That is not fear. That is discipline. And discipline is part of real vitality too. What I like most about this protocol is that it meets men where they already are. You already drink coffee. You already have the habit. So instead of trying to force a complicated routine you will forget in 4 days, you upgrade the ritual you already trust. That is how long-term change happens, not by chasing motivation, but by attaching better physiology to a behavior that already exists. And when this starts working the way it should, the benefits feel very real. Your mornings feel less heavy, your limbs feel less dull, your workouts feel less flat, your breathing feels less taxed, your body feels more ready than reluctant. You may notice better warmth, better steadiness, better confidence, better follow-through. Not because you found some fantasy cure, but because the vascular environment is being supported instead of ignored. That is the big shift. Not fake stimulation, but better conditions for performance. Not panic buying, but daily physiology. Not a short-term thrill, but a longer-term move toward better vascular health, better recovery, better energy handling, and better body confidence. And at 70, that matters even more, because the goal is not to pretend you are 20. The goal is to keep the body responsive, capable, mobile, and alive. To keep strength where strength can still be kept. To keep blood moving where blood needs to move. To keep life feeling like something you can still fully step into. So tomorrow morning, do not just pour another plain coffee and hope for the best. Build the cup with intention. Support the flow, support the signal, support the system. Start simple: black coffee, raw cacao, Ceylon cinnamon, ginger. Use it daily. Watch your body. Adjust with discipline. And let the protocol earn your trust through consistency. If this video helped you see the hidden cause more clearly, comment "flow" below. And if you know another man who keeps blaming age for everything while ignoring circulation, send this to him, because many men do not need more hype, they need a better mechanism. I am Dr. Clara Vance, and this is educational content, not a personal medical diagnosis. Especially if you have a condition or take medication, check with your healthcare professional before changing your routine. But do not underestimate what happens when you finally stop drinking coffee for stimulation alone and start using it for blood flow, vitality, and long-term performance.